It's finally here. The future of the ultra performance scooters has landed, and its name is the namiburne, aka the Viper. Capable of wind whipping speeds of up to 60 miles per hour and a range of up to 100 miles off a single charge, the Viper is a venomous, versatile scooter that easily vindicates its large $4,499 price tag, or if you're in the UK, £3,800. Offering similar volcanic levels of acceleration as DUALTRON's industry-leading line of scooters, the Viper isn't content to merely match the market's finest models, it tops them. The Viper is better designed than its closest competitors, while its feature set is unparalleled across the electric scooter industry. With a range of riding modes, a pair of exclusively designed sine wave controllers, and the option to customize, you absolutely get what you pay for. The Viper is the ultimate scooter. There are some minor areas that need improvement, but it has everything you could possibly want, making it the most complete package out of our 100 strong database of electric scooters. Welcome to Electric Scooter Insider. I'm Josh and I've been reviewing electric scooters for the last few years, and it's my mission to help you choose the right scooter. So if you're here because you want the most substantial, complete and comprehensive review of the namiburne Viper, sit back, strap in and enjoy. In this review, we're going to cover 8 key areas. Who is it best for? The pros and cons, value for money, alternatives, the design, the ride quality, the performance and safety, and extra features. But before we jump into the full review, here's a quick fact about the namiburne. So the name Viper was the Burne's original moniker, a callback to its tubular frame, which is reminiscent of a snake ready to strike. However, there were some potential trademark issues with the name, and this may have had something to do with a famous car from a well-known brand. So to dodge this, maker Michael Shah changed it to the Burne. Still, the scooter community at large continues to call Nami's flagship scooter the Viper, so I'll use both names interchangeably in this review. You can divide electric scooters up into 5 broad classifications. There's your average budget scooter, such as those made by Turboant, Highboy and GoTrax. Then there's your typical commuter scooter, and this class involves models such as the Apollo City, Horizon and eMove Touring. Beyond this, you then have performance scooters, and here we're talking about models that pack a punch of power, capable of propelling you up to speeds of between 30 and 40 miles per hour. Examples of these include the likes of the Mantis Pro or the Apollo Phantom and Apollo Ghost. Next, we make our way up to the heavy-hitting, asphalt-scorching capabilities of high-performance scooters like the Wolf Warrior and the VSET 10 Plus, and these are capable of hitting between 40 and 50 miles per hour. Fifth and final, there is the most extreme category, ultra performance scooters, and this set of scooters includes models comfortable with speeds of 50 miles per hour and beyond, so naturally it's limited to just a small bunch. The big names, you've got the VSET 11 Plus, the Wolf King, the new Wolf King GT, the DUALTRON Storm, the DUALTRON X2, and of course the namiburne Viper. And that means in normal circumstances, I'd only recommend the Viper to the most experienced of riders. With the amount of speed, torque, and sheer power you're working with, it's not for beginners, and it's certainly not for the faint-hearted. However, these aren't normal circumstances because unlike any other ultra performance scooter, which need a controlled and experienced hand to ride them, the Viper can be tamed. And for that, you can thank the customizability of its features and ride experience, which means that the scooter can grow as your abilities do. So while the likes of the DUALTRON Storm or the DUALTRON X2 drop you straight into the deep end, the Viper allows you to kind of ease your way into the shallows rather than grapple with overwhelming features and specs straight off the bat. The Viper actually lets you wade your way towards accessing its top features as you gradually build your confidence. With that in mind, the Viper is accessible to all riders, but I still wouldn't recommend it to those completely new to scootering. The gulf between entry level and ultra performance is still far too wide. It's also not for small riders because the frame is absolutely huge. It's a lot bigger in person than it is in pictures, but for anyone else, providing you have the confidence and the budget, the Viper should be a great fit for you, but don't underestimate it. Let's start with the good stuff. It's capable of hitting a blistering 60 miles per hour top speed and has a Herculean 100-mile range. It has excellent build quality with a carbon fiber stem and one-piece aluminium frame. An outrageously quick acceleration rate, which is actually the fastest acceleration rate we've ever recorded. Powerful hydraulic nut brakes. Easily adjustable KKE hydraulic coilover shock suspension system, an industry-leading interface with a huge range of P settings, a turbo mode that allows you to inject an extra 12% for a speed hit, multiple water resistance ratings, you can create customized riding modes based on your preferences, and finally it has a fantastic speed regulated cruise control, which is very similar to the type of cruise control you'll find in a car. Okay, so what are the cons? Well, at 103 pounds, it's heavy. It's also been overbuilt, which results in its behemoth weight, but there is an upside to this in its increased durability. There's also a little bit of exposed wiring at the front of the deck where it's kind of the underside of the neck, and that would be better if it was encased or kind of tucked away for better protection. Could I give this scooter a 9.5 out of 10 without it being good bang for your buck? Of course not. So trust me when I say that the Viper is worth every cent, and you'll see this as we progress through the review. Of course, it's not cheap. It's almost expensive as a car, not to mention as powerful as one. So what exactly do you get for your money? Well, the Viper's feature set is unparalleled across the entire electric scooter industry, and with a range of riding modes, a pair of exclusively designed sine wave controllers, and the option to customize, you absolutely get what you pay for. Topping its closest competitors in the crucial metrics of acceleration and range, and might I add, comprehensively so, the Viper has come, seen and conquered the ultra performance scooter market. So yes, this one is worth breaking the bank for. What other scooters should you consider? First up, we have the DUALTRON Storm. Now this is priced at $4,490 in the US and £3,299 in the UK. It can go up to 62 miles per hour. It has an 80-mile range, it weighs 102 pounds, and it can support up to 330 pounds of rider weight. Why is it better than the NAMI? Well, it has foldable handlebars and it has the removable battery for easy charging. But why is it worse than the NAMI? Well, it actually has a slower acceleration rate and it takes 29% longer to hit 15 miles per hour. It also has a 20-mile range that is shorter than the Burne. There's also no water resistance ratings and it has an inferior display and scooter controls. Next up, we have the Wolf King. Now this is priced at $2,999 in the US, and in the UK you can pick it up for around £2,899. Now this has a top speed of 60 miles per hour, a maximum range of 50 miles, a weight of 105 pounds, and it can support up to 400 pounds of rider weight. Now, why is it better than the namiburne? Well, it's much cheaper. You can save around $1,500. It also supports much more rider weight. To be precise, 70 more pounds of rider weight. So why is it worse than the Burnie? Well, it offers just half of the Viper's total mileage, which is 50 miles less. It's also very difficult to fold and it's not portable at all. But then again, neither is the NAMI. These scooters are absolutely huge. It also has a less powerful acceleration rate and it takes 17% longer to reach 25 miles per hour. And it has the inferior display and scooter controls. Third and final, we have the Wolf Warrior. In the US, you can pick it up for $2,799 and in the UK, its going rate is £2,599. Now this one can do up to 50 miles per hour, has a 70-mile range, it weighs 101 pounds and it can support up to 330 pounds of rider weight. Why is it better than the NAMI? Well, this just comes down to price, and in fact you can save around $1,700 if you opt for the Wolf Warrior. Now, why is it worse than the NAMI? Well, it's slower, in fact 10 miles per hour slower off its top speed. It also has an inferior range where you're going to get 30 miles less than what you would get with the NAMI. It has a less powerful acceleration rate and it actually takes 23% longer to reach 25 miles per hour. And again, like the Wolf King, it's very difficult to fold. At 24.4 inches wide, the Viper's handlebars are more than 3 inches shy of those flaunted on the likes of the VSET 11 Plus, which is 27.5 inches wide, and also just fall short of those on the Wolf Warrior, which measure up at 24.6 inches wide. Somewhat counterintuitively, the length of the Viper's handlebars is also outstripped by scooters with lower specs and fewer features, such as the 010X and the Apollo Pro, which both measure at 26.7 inches apiece, and the Violet Eagle 1, which measures at 25.5 inches. The reason that I mention all of this is because normally, at least, the width of a scooter's handlebars can affect the amount of handling and comfort that you as the rider enjoy, and it can also play a role in how much control that you feel you have over the scooter. But despite its slightly slimmer span of its handlebars, the Viper proves to be a highly enjoyable ride. Plus, what the Viper's handlebars lack in size, they make up for in the spread of features and functionality that they offer. In the center, you'll find the Viper's calculating brain, that is its industry-leading waterproof smart display. From here, you'll view your speed, the total distance you've traveled, plus a basic visualization of your Viper's battery life. You can also use this screen to toggle between the Viper's 5 different riding modes, including the supercharged turbo mode for extra fun rides. There's also a whole bunch of other settings, such as the strength of the Viper's dual motors and the intensity of its regenerative brakes, but more on that later. Elsewhere on the handlebars, you'll be able to squeeze its pair of hand-operated hydraulic brakes, and over on the right-hand side, toot its motorcycle-grade horn. On this flank, there are also buttons that activate the scooter's turn signals and turn on its headlight. The thumb throttle is also located here, sitting beneath the right hand grip. To the left hand side of the Viper's handlebars, you'll find a panel of buttons, one which turns the scooter on and off, while the others help you select which rider mode you want, as well as tinker with a range of other features on offer. And finally, the Viper's handlebars are just, well, comfortable, with a molded shape designed to help alleviate the demands on your posture over long journeys, plus a pair of supple ergonomic rubber hand grips. You'll enjoy getting the most out of the Viper's 100-mile maximum range. This thing is an absolute beast. With a matte black industrial design, the Burnie feels like it stepped straight out of a dystopian movie and brought a slither of a dark, brooding future back with it. With a carbon fiber stem and fierce looking girders of aviation grade aluminium fused in the one-piece frame, the Viper has a visual impact that befits its commanding range of features and industry leading specs. In fact, it shares a considerable amount of its look and feel with the DUALTRON range, particularly the formidable frame of the 145.5 pounds of the X2. There's even something wonderfully sinister about the Viper's powerful lighting setup, showcasing a glaring 2000 lumen headlight to guide your way at the front, responsive brake lights at the rear, and a strip of LEDs running down the side of the deck. The NAMI delivers excellent visibility when riding at night, and it doesn't stop there. The NAMI is also equipped with turn signals. Simply activate the indicators and a ripple of orange light will move along the deck. However, the turn signals do suffer from the same issue as the VSET 11 Plus. Their placement on the side of the deck makes them hard to see from the front and rear, and this ultimately reduces their effectiveness. To the untrained eye, the ripple effect can also easily be misunderstood as kind of mood lighting instead of its practical function. An improvement here would be for the turn signals to wrap around the front and rear of the deck and then flash. If you're imagining the Burne's deck as resembling the slim, narrow platforms of conventional commute scooters, think again. This thing is titanic and easily large enough to strike a wide, comfortable stance on. Heck, you could probably even host a baseball game on this thing. And it's no wonder that the Viper's deck is huge. It houses a behemoth 72 volt, 35 amp Panasonic battery. Adorning the deck center is the NAMI logo, but done in a classy rather than garish way. It's also flanked with two thin strips of grip tape, and while these dual columns of sandpapery type material do a decent job, I still prefer to see the whole deck coated in a grippy surface, whether that's just kind of rubber, silicone, or just the entire thing in grip tape. However, the design NAMI has gone with still does the job, so it passes this test. At the rear end, the deck raises to form a handle, and this allows you to get a strong grip on the scooter when it comes to lifting it, but it also serves as a kick plate when you're out riding, allowing you to extend your stance and lean into the ride for extra control and stability at those high speeds. Arriving out of the box with a pair of 11-inch air-filled tires, the Burne doesn't mess around. These things are stunning, super-sized, and thanks to their air-filled rather than solid nature, shock absorptive too. Though the Viper has been engineered to cope with all kinds of terrain, the tires it comes with are tailor-made to traverse flatter surfaces. And if you plan to use your Viper pretty much exclusively for, say, aggressive dirt tracks and forest trails, then I'd recommend purchasing an extra pair of knobby off-road tires that are built exactly for that. And you can get your hands on those in the US for around $109, and then in the UK they retail for around £40. The namiburne hasn't been designed for top speeds and range only to fall apart when you try and hit them. No, this scooter is the real deal with a high build quality, design and components. These all give the DUALTRON range a run for their money. Take the Viper's one-piece aluminium welded frame for instance. Not only is this material aviation grade, but it's been heat treated to help safeguard it against age and wear and tear. Now, the Viper stem also deviates from the norms of the electric scooter world, where Michael, the maker, has actually opted to use carbon fiber rather than steel or aluminium, which we would typically see. Plus, the aluminium exoskeleton chassis is made up of tubing that has been reinforced with a cross-shaped aluminium inner that runs through the entirety of its tubes. And this is just one of the features that makes the frame so unique to this scooter. With polished stainless steel relied on for some of the Viper's more technical moving parts, such as the folding mechanism, the Viper doesn't only offer up a dynamic design, but it cuts through a durable, dependable figure too. The only area for improvements are if the scooter was fitted with some kind of steering damper, similar to that on kind of DUALTRON's top models. A steering damper would give you an increased amount of control when you're hitting those top speeds. And the only other area for improvement is if the exposed wiring at the front of the deck, which is kind of underside of the neck. If that was encased and tucked away, then it will be more protected. But considering everything this scooter has to offer, these are minor improvements in the bigger picture. You can think of them more as kind of value added improvements. The scooters I outlined earlier in the ultra performance category tend to vary wildly in terms of the features that they offer, but one area that they don't differ all that much is how much they weigh. The Burne weighs 103 pounds, and you can take a look at how that weighs in against its closest ultra performance scooters in this table. As you can see, most of the scooters in the Burne's bracket weigh a similar amount. The only real outlier here is the earth-shaking bulk of the DUALTRON X2, which at 145.5 pounds, because you can't forget the 0.5, that one doesn't even tip the scales but obliterates them. Against this backdrop, weight probably isn't going to be a deciding factor when it comes to picking the Burne over, say, the DUALTRON Storm, Wolf Warrior or the Wolf King. Since the release of the scooter, Michael has however been working on new prototypes of the chassis, which weigh around 6.2 pounds, which is around the 2.8 kilogram mark, versus the 12.8 pounds or 5.8 kilos that the chassis currently weighs. So keep your eyes peeled for a potentially lighter model in the future. And then in terms of load, the Viper can support up to a rider weight of 330 pounds, and the only other scooters that outrank the 330 pounds of the Viper are the likes of the eMove Cruiser that can support up to 352 pounds, and Kaboo's Wolf King, which can support 400 pounds. There are no folding handlebars on the Burne, and this is one area which perhaps some DUALTRON scooters outclass it, but the Viper still has plenty to offer in the way of folding functionality. The Viper folds at the base of the stem via a brand new patent pending lock taper folding mechanism. Surprisingly, it's extremely easy to use. You simply loosen the quick release lever, spin the mechanism until it's no longer threaded, and then you can fold the stem. If there's a caveat that I can add to this section, it's the extent to which the Viper can truly be considered portable. At 103 pounds, it's one of the heaviest electric scooters that money can buy, and it's closer to the weight of a light moped than that of a conventional commuter scooter. Is the NAMI comfortable to ride? In a nutshell, yes. The Burne is as comfortable as they come, and as I'll get to shortly in the performance and safety section of the review, the 165mm hydraulic coil over shock suspension system offers more shock absorption than any other scooter that we've tested. What's more, the suspension is completely adjustable. By tinkering with the rebound settings of the KKE hydraulic suspension, you can control the rate at which its coil over shocks bounce back from impact. Now this allows the Viper to tackle pretty much any type of terrain, whether that's urban or off-road, with absolute ease. Of course, we also can't leave out all of the contributions from the enormous 11-inch air-filled tyres. With all of the technicalities of the hydraulic shocks out of the way, it's easy to overlook how crucial the Viper's air-filled tyres are to its overall ride quality, and let me tell you, they do a fantastic job. With enough room to host a banquet, let alone stand on, the Viper's deck is one of the biggest that we've ever reviewed. Plus, with wide handlebars, strong lighting and top of the shelf braking, all adding extra layers of rider confidence into the mix, the Viper isn't only comfortable to ride, it's a safe one too. What's more, you can customize the NAMI to your exact preferences. You can either tinker with the top level settings like how fast the acceleration rate is, or go as far as create a customized riding mode based on your environment. For example, let's say you're going to be riding in a hilly area. Here you could change configuration of the motors to have more power running to the front to help you pull you up hills as opposed to pushing you up using the rear motor. Then say you fancy a stint of road racing, you could set both motors up with maximum power for the highest levels of torque and acceleration. Capable of hitting speeds of up to 60 miles per hour, the Viper is one of the fastest scooters that money can buy. So let's see how that pace stacks up against similar price models. Taking a $1,000 price range with the Viper's price tag in the middle, there are only two other comparable models. We have the DUALTRON Storm and the DUALTRON Ultra 2. And of these three, the Viper actually has the slowest top speed, at least that's stated by the manufacturer. However, when we dig a little deeper into the overall performance, we can actually see that the Viper has a significantly faster acceleration rate. So, since the Viper only loses out speed-wise to the Storm and Ultra by just 2 miles per hour, the scooter represents the best deal when it comes to the full package. That is blistering speeds, but with a rapid acceleration rate to match. Again, taking a margin of comparison, but this time applying it to the Viper's weight rather than its price, we can compare the scooter's maximum velocity to the most similar models on the market. And as it turns out, there are three that are within the 98 to 108 pound price range: the DUALTRON Storm, the Wolf King, and the Wolf Warrior. And unsurprisingly, the DUALTRON Storm's sensational stacks of speed means that it emerges on the top. And as for the Burnie, it shares its top speed with the Wolf King while easily topping the 50 miles per hour that the Wolf Warrior is capable of. However, as I mentioned in the speed versus price comparison, the Viper's strong suit is its acceleration. It's the best accelerator out of all the models here, and despite not excelling beyond the Storm as far as top speed is concerned, it will still get you to those 60 miles per hour heights quicker. I'll unpack why the Viper's acceleration is so good in the acceleration section up next. Okay, let's be real. Was a scooter with huge 1500 watt dual motors, a pair of sine wave 50 amp controllers, a turbo mode which injects 12% more power for an exhilaration injection of pace, and a peak 8400 watt power output ever going to struggle with acceleration? The answer, of course, is no, so it doesn't come as any surprise that the Viper is one of the fastest electric scooters on the market. Of course, that even includes the Viper's closest competitors. For context, its peak output is a whole 25% greater than that of the 6,640 watts of the DUALTRON Storm, and a colossal 56% better than the Wolf Warrior's 5,400 watts. And stop the press, it's even bigger than the DUALTRON X2's 8,300 watt peak output. And look, remember, the X2 cost just shy of a budget shattering $6,500. So the fact that you can get the Burnie for even cheaper than that, actually get more power, that should kind of tell you how much value for money you can get from the Burnie where power is concerned. Now, what all of these impressive numbers amount to in terms of acceleration is that the Viper can hit 50 miles per hour 11% faster than the Wolf King and the Wolf Warrior, and a whole 29% faster than the DUALTRON Storm. And as the speed increases, so too does the gap between the Viper and, well, pretty much everybody else. The Viper hits speeds of up to 25 miles per hour, 17% quicker than the Wolf King, 19% quicker than the DUALTRON Storm, and 23% faster than the Wolf Warrior. Fast, ruthless, and unstoppable, the Viper has more in common with its namesake than I first thought. It's also worth noting though that you do get a lot of wheel spin, especially at the front, which can be hard to control at times. Besides this, the throttle response is actually very smooth compared to other ultra performance scooters. Take the DUALTRON Storm for instance. Its throttle response is immediate, making the ride feel jerky and abrupt, whereas the torque of the Burnie, on the other hand, is easy to control if you want to speed up gradually. Thanks to what can only be described as an enormous 72 volt, 35 amp Panasonic battery, the NAMI can hit distances of up to 100 miles off a single charge. And under realistic conditions, this comes out to around 56 to 60 miles. Now, you probably don't need any additional context to appreciate how incredible a 100-mile range is, but I'm going to give away some anyway. So let's take a look at how the Viper's mileage stacks up against its closest rivals when it comes to price and weight. As we discovered in the speed versus price comparison earlier, there are just two models that emerge in the $1,000 price range that we applied. And so, to be expected, we have the same two DUALTRON models for this comparison, but things are a little different. In the price versus speed comparison, the Storm and Ultra 2 both beat out the Viper for top speed, but when it comes to mileage, the Viper flips the script. This time, the Viper emerges on top, crushing both DUALTRON models. The key difference here is that the Viper boasts those dual 50 amp sine wave controllers, and by pulling power more efficiently, the Viper can deliver a longer range. The DUALTRON Storm, by contrast, that one sports a smaller 72 volt 31.5 amp LG battery, so to nobody's surprise, it ends up bottom of our comparison chart when it comes to mileage. Renewing our 98 to 108 pound weight bracket from earlier, let's see how the Viper's three competitors, the Wolf King, the Wolf Warrior and the DUALTRON Storm, all measure up. Well, there's no contest here. The Viper once again steals the show, laying claim to the longest range. In its weight division, the Viper flaunts 25% more range than the Storm's 80 miles and double that of the Wolf King, which closes up the pack. NAMI doesn't openly advertise the scooter's hill climbing credentials. However, I can attest to the fact that this scooter can climb hills of up to 35 degrees. There's no hill in the world that this beast can't climb, and it doesn't even break a sweat on anything up to 20 degrees. But make no mistake, hill climbing credentials of this kind are very hard to come by, even in the spec saturated world of high and ultra performance scooters. With a pair of adjustable 165mm hydraulic coil shocks, the Burne has specifically been engineered to provide superlative levels of shock absorption. Like the snake this scooter is named after, whose habitat ranges from mountains to fields, rainforests and deserts, the Viper can go anywhere. The KKE hydraulic coilover shocks also offer rebound adjustment. Now, this type of suspension was originally a motocross invention and has been designed to offer you greater levels of control and comfort while traversing a wide variety of terrain. And in brief, it allows you to tinker with how quickly your Viper's shocks bounce back. Now, despite the shock system itself being complex, there's no other suspension system that comes close to how easy and intuitive it is to adjust. Unlike other scooters, no tool is needed. You simply dial in the amount of dampening you want, and even new riders can get to grips with it pretty quickly. It's brilliant. Now, some of you may be asking yourself, what is rebound adjustment and why is it important? And I'll explain that now quickly. So you can think of suspension in two facets. On the one hand, you have compression, and on the other, you have rebound. Now, you can't have one without the other, and both rely on each other. So compression damping actually helps the suspension to absorb bumps as your wheels roll over obstacles and move upwards. Rebound damping, on the other hand, helps the suspension to return to its original position after compression. Ultimately, rebound damping is used to regulate and control the speed at which the shock absorbers bounce back, and therefore is vital for a smooth ride. So in the case of the Viper, the hydraulic rebound damping relies on oil moving through a circuit to regulate the speed at which the suspension extends after being compressed. Without the ability to customize this, if your rebound is set to being too low, then your expensive electric scooter is going to turn into a glorified pogo stick. So for example, the shock coming out of the shock absorber body will fire up as opposed to being controlled and dampened. Now ultimately, the Viper's industry-leading suspension has been designed for rider comfort, which it delivers in spades. Its adjustable configuration and the extent to which you can customize it for less reliable terrain makes it one of the finest scooters for off-road enthusiasts. Just remember your helmet. One other area that deserves attention is the swing arms, which have been forged as opposed to being cast. So not only do they actually have a better surface finish than the cast swing arms, but the aluminium forging actually has mechanical properties that make their strength to weight ratio far superior to that of castings, and this actually makes them more durable. While the Burne's dual hydraulic disc brakes are certainly something we would expect from an ultra performance scooter of its ilk, that doesn't make them any less impressive for us to appreciate and to use. So the Viper's brilliant braking setup, which to get technical is made up of nut hydraulic brakes with 160mm discs, is very sharp and well calibrated, so much so that you'll want to apply only the lightest of touches when it comes to using them. Because applying the brakes cuts the Viper's formidable motors, it's likely you'll end up coming to a stop faster than you had expected, so keep that in mind. If the nut disc brake setup looks familiar to some of you seasoned ultra performance scooter enthusiasts out there, that's because it is. The Viper shares its braking arrangement with the DUALTRON Ultra 2, the dedicated scooter for off-road riding in DUALTRON's lineup. And these brakes are also similar to those found on the Storm, although with the Storm, Mini Motors had opted to manufacture their own proprietary disc brakes for this model. Now, one benefit of the NAMI's brakes is that it's easy to upgrade them should you want to. Magura brakes, for instance, which are some of the most powerful on the market and tend to outperform those of the nut variety in tests and when it comes to maintenance, can be easily slotted in to the Viper. Nevertheless, the Viper's hydraulic brakes are supported by a regenerative braking system which kicks in after you engage the mechanical brakes. Essentially, this tech force feeds the kinetic energy generated by the stopping process back in the battery, allowing you to not only brake more effectively, but also conserve your scooter's juice to hit its maximum range. Predictably, there are 5 strength settings to choose from, and you can toggle between these using the industry-leading interface located at the center of the handlebars. Overall, this type of braking system is just about the best you can get. It also demonstrates that the namiburne and its creator, Michael Shah, aren't solely focused on speed, but on safety too. The Burne arrives with 2 chargers included, which is a nice touch. Plugging them both in simultaneously will get your Viper juiced up in around 6 hours, while just one will do the job in 12. And while it's not a key feature by any means, the location of the charging ports is the best that I've seen on any scooter. Some scooters have their ports located on the side of the deck, but these can become malformed and damaged as a result of curb sideswiping. Other scooters place the ports on top of the deck. This method eliminates curb damage, but it does mean that they can become exposed to water damage from rainfall. If these types of ports don't have tight waterproof seals, they can also be kicked off and ultimately suffer. The Burne, on the other hand, conveniently places its 2 charging ports on the reinforced plate across the neck of the scooter. Not only does this placement move them out of the way from rogue foot placements, but they also have waterproof seals. It's small details like this that make a big difference. As you'll have noticed by now, the Burne isn't short of wow factors, but perhaps the biggest rabbit Michael Shah's pulled out of the bag with the Viper's design is the superlative, customizable interface that is located between the scooter's handlebars. Here's where you can view, control and personalize pretty much every kind of data point. That includes everything from the more basic stuff such as your speed, riding mode and trip distance, all the way up to more elaborate insights, which I'll get to in a minute. Though the device is as big as most iPhones, it's not touchscreen. Instead, you have to toggle the interface's settings via a small pad of black buttons on the left-hand side of the handlebars. There are 4 buttons here. You have a plus sign, a minus sign, an M sign, and a power on-off button. By pressing the on-off button, you can begin cycling through the interface's views, which include the total distance you traveled on your trip, a G-force readout, which actually shows you how many G's you're generating as you ride. Crazy, I know. The amount of power your Viper's using, so the average consumption per 10 kilograms, and the respective temperature of the front and rear motor. And all of this just by pressing one button. Plus, unlike other scooters where you have to rely on a voltmeter or a battery bar to get an idea of how many miles your battery has left, the Burne actually gives you exact insights into your remaining range. 2 very powerful and exclusively designed sine wave 50 amp controllers that control the acceleration strength and power of each motor independently. You know what? There's nothing like the smell of 2 powerful sine wave 50 amp controllers in the morning. Like the Viper's patent lock taper stem folding mechanism, the sine wave controllers have been exclusively designed to help the Viper breach new frontiers of performance. What's really exciting about them though is that they allow you to take control of each motor independently. Simply click your way to P setting number 11, and then here you can set your Viper's maximum controller current and tinker with the amount of power that you're able to pull from those formidable motors. 60 amps is the peak output, and you'll only get this with the hardest of accelerations. Of course, you won't be accessing all of this power all the time. After all, this is dependent on the temperature levels of the controllers, and so if they get too hot, they actually self-regulate and temper the amount of power you're using accordingly. And they are cleverly designed since they are positioned outside of the battery component and they are attached to the base of the frame at the front of the scooter, and this allows them to be air-cooled, meaning their placement actually acts as a heatsink. I think we've already established that the Burne isn't like any other scooter, so it's no shock that it introduces a game-changing cruise control feature. To activate it, simply get the scooter to the speed that you wish to stay at, keep your thumb on the throttle, and then hold the minus button for a couple of seconds. Once you see the small cruise icon flash up in the top left of the corner on the screen, you're cruising. But what's key here is that unlike any other performance scooter, you can adjust the speed of your cruise. You can simply use those plus and minus buttons to increase or decrease the pace at which you're traveling at without having to disengage and then re-engage the cruise control feature. It's nothing short of genius, plus it's really simple to use, and the placement of the ergonomic thumb throttle on the right and the minus button on the left make it seamless. This nifty safety feature, which you can also admire on some of VSEX models, prevents the handlebars from over-rotating and locking up. Over-rotation can be very easy to do, especially when you try and navigate sharp and treacherous terrain and bends in the road, and it can also be the cause of serious personal injury and harm, which is why it's a relief that Michael and the team at NAMI have included a small screw on the top of the section that connects the swing arm to the base of the stem. Located just underneath the display is a hidden USB charging port, which is ideal for charging either your phone or accessories while you're out riding. To activate it, you have to keep the M button to the left hand side of the handlebars pressed down for around 10 seconds, and this will cause a small kind of USB icon to appear in the top left corner of the screen, and this indicates that your Viper has now begun outputting volts to the port and that it's ready to start charging your devices on the go. Water resistance ratings on top performing electric scooter models are like buses. You wait for one forever and then two show up. and much to my pleasant surprise, the namiburne has not one, but 2 water resistance ratings. It has an IP55 rating and an IP65 rating. An IP55 certification means that the Viper's frame has passed tests with low pressure water jets aimed at it from every direction. An IP65 rating is pretty much the same, only with high pressure jets, and it's also the second best level of water protection that we have seen in the industry. For clarity, the scooter is protected as follows. The display and controllers are protected by the IP65 rating, and then the cabling and the overall scooter is protected with an IP55 rating. That's the review of the namiburneviper. If you liked what you saw, you can either pick it up by scanning this QR code here or click the links in the description. I'll also make sure to provide links for all of the scooters that I've recommended as alternatives, and if you need any more information, why not head over to electricscooterinsider.com, where we have a bunch of reviews and guides. If you found value from this review, do me a favor, smash that like button, share it with a friend, and subscribe to become an Electric Scooter Insider. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.